two powerhouses that have been really, I would say, pioneering, leading the industry. I'd say breaking boundaries as well, all around the world. So it gives me great joy and very, very honored to introduce two speakers who are going to talk to you about owning and operating award-winning bars. Now, I'm sure many of you have been asked this question: how do we win awards? How do we do this? How do we get to this point? And I can't think of two better people to talk about this subject and share their knowledge with all of you today. So the first person that I would like to introduce is Ezra Star, who has worked in the hospitality industry for 20 plus years as a bartender and chef and a bar owner. And during her time at Drink, this bar won numerous awards, including 7 consecutive appearances on the world's 50 best bar list. Now, just to give a bit of context with this list, since it started in 2009, there have only ever been 256 different bars appearing on this list. So that is tiny in comparison to the huge amount of bars that there are in the world. But this bar also appeared as Best American Bar Team, Best American Bar of the Year, and the World's Best Bars at the Tales of the Cocktail Spirited Awards as well. Another huge award within the industry. Ezra herself has won awards, being nominated for Best American Bartender of the Year in 2017, 18, 19, 2020, and also International Bartender of the Year. I mean, that's just absolutely incredible. And amongst other business interests, Ezra owns the award-winning bar Mostly Harmless, number 45 on Asia's 50 Best Bar list in 2024 in Hong Kong, and also the co-owner of Hungry Ghost alongside wife Beckaly Franks, which leads me so nicely to introduce Beckaly as well. And Beckaly, for those who don't know her, but you definitely should, a born leader, a global sensation, a mentor, a bartender, a fabulous host, but also a champion of amazing causes around the world, and really being a leader that many people in this industry look up to. And also the very, very deserving winner of the Altus Bartenders Award for Asia 50 Best Bars in 2023. And that's one of the best achievements that you could do, and I think really inspires many people to strive towards, and to really strive towards excellence, I think, within the bar industry. So moving to Hong Kong in 2015, she co-founded Pontiac, which has been featured on the list of Asia's 50 best bars for 7 years, and is credited with pushing female empowerment within this industry, and creating an inclusive space for many people where everybody is welcome. And more recently, with Ezra, has founded Hungry Ghost, with and opened many other venues called Call Me Al and Artifact Bar. So please give a warm welcome to Beckaly and Ezra, who will be presenting on owning and operating award-winning bars.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you guys, obviously. Thank you to Pernod, thank you for Jameson, thank you to Middleton, thank you for everybody for being present. This is an extraordinary opportunity, and just obviously feeling really, really grateful to not only be a mentor, but a mentee, and to be around amazing people. Sean, you're absolutely so fucking inspiring and incredible. Yeah, like, coming from somebody that is like, I think in much more abstract terms, to have somebody who can actually like break things down and articulate them in the way that you do, I find very inspiring, and I will certainly be filling out all of the things and connecting with you. I'll give you like a little prelude. Like, so Ezra and I, we started a company together called Hungry Ghost. This is our first time even talking, you know, in front of people together. So it's going to be a little bit segmented, but we're just going to try to make it groovy. Yeah. And if we, yeah, of course, we've got like accolades and shit like that, but really we're just people trying to connect and, you know, transfer enthusiasm and, you know, the human experience. So my name is Beckaly. This is owning and operating bars in a changing world. I cannot teach you, I can only help you to explore yourself. Nothing more, Bruce Lee. Hey y'all, my name is Beckaly, part 1. That's me. So what I'm doing right here is obviously I'm humanizing the experience, right? So like, you know, there's nothing about me that needs to be glorified. Like, that's me. Been that way since the jump, born in cowgirl boots. Yeah, that's the rock and roll of it. I think that like, so one of the things that you'll see for Ezra and I think that like, when, you know, like as Sean was saying, like, not everybody has the same background, but I like to give a little bit about my background, because one of the questions that I get asked a lot is like, how'd you get started in hospitality? Well, I was fucking born in it. It's my DNA. So this is a bar that my parents owned when I was growing up. It's called the First National. That's what it looked like inside in a town called Pocatello, Idaho, which is not 20,000, but 50,000. My parents had their wedding reception here. We have my stepfather's wake here. You know, it's just part of who I am. So it's the extension of my DNA is this community that we talk about, and we can break it down and calibrate it and measure it and create businesses out of it. But it's also just part of like who I am. How I got started, if Izzy's somewhere around here, I'm a fucking coyote girl at heart, babe girl. I can't see you, but I can hear you. So I got recruited into my first opportunity in hospitality. Well, like on an official level, dancing on top of bars. I taught choreography, you know, like the whole thing. So I went from like high volume, that's me at 21, little baby Beckaly, beep beep. Did I have the best tits?
No, yes, but
bachelor parties. But the reason why this shit is actually important is it's like it's the determination. It's like also like I've been authentically like who I am through this entire journey. And like if you look forward, like we'll fast forward to Pontiac, right? Like we especially like right now, everybody's like, and we talk about these awards and shit like that, but it's okay to be on your journey. Like nobody gets to define your process. You have to take your time. You have to juice the lemons. And if you want to dance on top of the bar and have a great time and like that's part of your journey, that's absolutely okay. You can still end up in Ireland talking in front of people all about it. You motherfuckers. All right, so eye on the prize. So went from dancing on top of the bars, making a bunch of money and having a great time, and the relationships that I established, by the way, with the people there, like they're still my very, very best friends. And like what isn't in here is that like, yes, my family owned a bar when I was growing up. My grandma's a botanist. Like I was very much like raised in like her 4 acres and her greenhouses. The smell of basil reminds me of my grandma. So if I zoom out a little bit, I can see that it's already pre-programmed into me to love certain aspects of this. So it's obviously just, or if I like, again, like I zoom out, it's a natural part of my progression. But as much as I do love dancing on top of bars and high volume and rock and roll, which is like, again, like a part of my DNA, it's part of like who I am and the things that I like. And it's okay if other people don't like them. Everybody is different. Everybody to each their own art, right? Or not art, it doesn't even matter, but to each their own. And like where you get to your, like how you get to your destination, like it's all about the journey, right? We're all on our own like individual hero's journey. My hero's journey ended with this motherfucker. His name's Jeffrey Morgenthaler. I worked my ass off. I quit high volume club bartending. I got into a casual fine dining situation. When I would get home at 6:30 a.m., I said I got up at 6:30 a.m. and I literally, metaphorically, and literally juiced the lemons. And that's when I started studying for International Sommelier Guild. That's when I started competing. My first competition was Fortaleza. And for 2.5 years, I kept my head down. It was 2008, it was a recession. And I worked my ass off. And then I called Clyde Common once a week, almost for a year, and asked this motherfucker for a job until he reluctantly gave it to me. But he did. So why did I want to be an owner? So we talk about like going from bartender, you know, like my process, right? So I went from bartender when I was living in Portland, Oregon, which is where Clyde Common was, and working under Jeff and everything like that. Like I had reached my personal ceiling, and I love Portland. I love where I came from, but there was an actual ceiling. And so when I was working there, it wasn't hip to be the way that I am. So. And it just wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like if I didn't start out at a dive bar and then work my way into being a mixologist, or if like I'm fucking crazy, which I am, and everybody knows that, like I am incredibly passionate about my art. I'm incredibly passionate about the way that I do things, but I didn't really fit into that mold. So why did I want to become an owner? Because I wanted to dance on the fucking bar and make the drinks I want to make with the people I want to make and the way that I want to do it. And I had to own my own bar to do that. So Hong Kong ended up being the place that wanted me to be the most authentic version of myself. Hence, we are the Pontiac. So in 2015, I moved to Hong Kong. I got recruited into an equity position to move across the world and open this little craft cocktail neighborhood dive bar called the Pontiac. And it is, yeah, that is, you know, the place that I get to, where I got to. So recently, I'm no longer a director, but for 9.5 years, got to like, to give the love into the art that I have into an actual, like, you know, a vehicle for it. Pontiac, again, 2015, like it pissed people off. We were Asia 50 best since inception. I think we started out at 17. And I know that we were talking about awards because Ezra and I share a fair amount of accolades, but I can't preach to you enough, and I know that you know this in your heart, but it is not about awards. You have to have the authenticity in your heart. And first of all, obviously, to make the business work, of course, if that is your intention and these are your goals to like own and operate a business, but also don't underestimate or don't devalue just a paycheck and being able to live your own life, because being an owner is pretty hectic. But fortunately enough, this alternative little like beautiful space became a beacon for inclusivity. You can see the rainbow flag there. I used to put that up once a year, and then after the second year, I just left it up because you could feel the difference. I intentionally hired primarily women in the beginning because, you know, just fucking obvious reasons. And then it just ended up being a very beautiful queer space. So being an owner meant my creative freedom, and freedom meant I could build an authentic community with my art. That's me. That's the artist that did this menu. That was my final menu. I just get to be able to do things my way and transfer my enthusiasm and really authentically take care of people. And like being an owner is so fucking hard, man. It's like such a trip. It's so hard. But the pros of it is that you get to actually do things your way with the people that you really choose to do them with most often. What are the difference between a bartender, a bartending owner, and a founding owner, and so forth? Obviously, we know what being a bartender is. At the Pontiac, I was a bartending owner, and then the founding owner, which is like I'm the founding owner of Artifact and Call Me Al with my beautiful wife, which is Hungry Ghost. We can get into the schematics of what equity is and the guise of sweat equity and like the pros and cons of it. Is a very amazing opportunity. But there's a very big difference in taking ownership in what you do and being a majority shareholder owner. At its fundamental core, you will always be a dishwasher. If anybody's watched Dragon the Bruce Lee story, you will understand that. But that at its fundamental core, no matter what you do, no matter like any level of success in the things that you achieve or level of ownership, the buck stops with you. You're the dishwasher, and if you don't take pride in washing the dishes, then you're probably in the wrong profession anyways. Bartending owner, fixing the ice machine, cleaning it out. Founding owner. We know it. You fucking know it. There is no job description for there's no job description for being what an owner is, but when you're the founding owner, the buck stops with you. This means that you're the one that is liable and responsible for everything. Again, these are talking about like weighing out your pros and cons, right? Like the pro is that it's yours. And then you get to actually say that it's yours and know that it's yours and be authentic in the reality that this is yours. It is your art, your team, but also it's yours. So those, those calls every second of every day that we always get, and then there's a lot of owners in here as well, like there is no stop to it. There's literally never a stop to it, and that's what you signed up for. If you are, that's what you signed up for. Shit no one tells you. I always feel like that's like Dolly Parton. Take your time. I know that we live in a very, very fast-paced reality, right? Like everything is online, like this is all redundant, right? But everything is like moving super fast, but like have residency in the bars that you work at. Fast tracking is not the means to success. Take your time in the things that you do, and you can learn so much in the rudimentary and like what seems to be mundane. Like getting up every day and juicing the lemons at 6:30 a.m. fucking sucked, but I learned so much, and I learned about my integrity. And also just so you can take your time. Time is the one thing that you will not get back. Get a lawyer, look over your contract. If you can't afford one or you're not a decent enough person or somebody cares about you, then that's your own damage. But like get a lawyer. Again, like I know you want to talk about like awards and stuff like that, or perhaps you do. When you are the talent, okay, so like in my position now, of course, my wife and we founded our own company. So I no longer look at myself as the talent, but there are people out there that will look at you as a talent and they will tell you that you are an owner, but you're the vehicle for their monetary gain. So you need to get to lawyer, and you need to protect yourself, because we're not usually trained in the tools to know what to do. We're not trained in the tools of knowing how to run a business necessarily, or how a business structure even works, or what IP even fucking means. Most of us, like I certainly didn't. It's been a decade, but I certainly didn't know those things, and I do know those things now, and that's why I'm telling you, get a lawyer. Have somebody that has your back contractually, so that you can go into your business endeavors supported. Sweat equity is an opportunity, not a value, reciprocated by its weight in monetary worth. Get a lawyer. The difference between owning the majority of a business and taking ownership of it are very, very different. So in example for the Pontiac, I was a minority shareholder, but I was the face of it, and I've created an absolute culture and community. Whomever ends up being like our mentee, that's what I get to offer, I know how to build culture. I know how to build core values and principles and identity and integrity. But that has had nothing to do with being the majority shareholder of the bar that was built on my name, and culture was built on me as a human being. That entire fucking brand is part of my soul. And there's an element to it that, that I want to teach other people that they don't have to sacrifice themselves as. And it's not a sacrifice. Pontiac is not a sacrifice, but I want to make it very clear that if I've gone through it, I want to teach you how to not sacrifice all of your entire heart and put it into something without being protected. You can take ownership of it, but you also can be protected. I was not, and I want to help people have protection in the future. Owner, a person who owns something. Ownership, the active state of the right of possessing something. We just went over that. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the brilliant. The good. Opportunity to create opportunities for others. That's what I love. But that's where we are at. It's like, I am no longer trying to be the face of something. I would like to create opportunities for other people, especially based on the knowledge and the things that I went through, because I absolutely certainly care. And I don't spend my time behind the stick every day. But that is what I love the fucking most about my job. It's what I love the most, is I love connecting with people. I love that transfer of energy and the space between. That's what I love. So now I'm in a graduated position, and so now I get the opportunity to take care of other people and hopefully teach them the lessons that I've learned and implore them and employ them in an honest, transparent way so they can also continue to do the things that they love, but hopefully with me, with us. So create opportunity to take care of others because you were born this way, baby. Full transparency, I didn't initially intend on being activist or anything for LGBT, but I am fucking queer as the day is long, and I won't ever fucking hide it. So I choose to carry my flag loud and proud everywhere I go, and that's just part of it, and nobody can tell me anything otherwise because I fucking own it. Bad. It will never not be hard, so get used to it. And also, we're in hospitality, we're masochists for it anyways, but it's always gonna be hard, so just, learn how to roll with the punches. Self-care, as Sim was saying, take your deep breaths. Boundaries are super fucking important. I know it's really, really hard to learn to have them, but boundaries are incredibly important because everything's gonna be hard no matter what. Ugly, it's money in relationships at the end of the day. One is binary, the other is not, okay? So it is a business, but it's yours. So it's your business, it's your art, it's your passion. So again, one is binary and one is not. The brilliant is that it's yours. Bartending is a privilege, not a right. The light is inside of us all for our destiny, to that of which we commit. My motto and my fucking Nike just do it is commit to the lit. So whatever you do, decide to commit to it. Commit to the light inside of you. Commit to your bravery, your authenticity. Commit to your journey, baby. That's a Beckaly quote, not Bruce Lee. Bartender, owner. Bing. And that's me, founder of Hungry Ghost with my beautiful wife.
All right. So we wanted to do this in two parts so that we could kind of tell our stories personally, because owning a bar is a personal thing. Leading a team is very personal because it is a part of you that goes out and delivers and gives part of you to a person who then gives part of you to somebody else and part of themselves. It's always giving a little pieces here and there. So my lovely wife was running a club, and one day she was like, well, not one day. She was like, I'm not very happy. I was like, of course, you shouldn't work for somebody else.
I didn't work for them. I co-owned it.
You shouldn't be working with other people. You should be doing what you want for yourself.
Yeah.
I am entirely paraphrasing. Anyway, so
ever more specifically, when I opened this nightclub, and I was like, I can fucking pop bottles all day long, and that's cool, but I wasn't able to nurture people the way that it fed me in return. And this is a give and take, like what we do. It is a give and take, and I wasn't getting anything back. I need to be able to love people and feel that and see them feel. My return is to be able to see them feel loved and nurtured.
So in order, don't step up, come on back.
I'm right here.
So what we did was we decided, let's just do this ourselves. I had a bar for a long time, very long time, and I ended up in a very bad relationship with the way it closed. We won numerous awards. We did all the stupid things that people try to do now, and for all the reasons that you think you should do it, you probably shouldn't, and for all the reasons you shouldn't do it, you probably should. But we'll get into that into a second. But from doing that, we wanted to create a nurturing space. So we founded a company called Hungry Ghost. Hungry Ghost happens to be the moon that we got married under, because yes, we are those kind of people, and we are super gay. And actually, it was our anniversary a couple days ago, 4 years. Yeah. All right, so I had to find a picture that was just as good as my wife's cowboy picture, and randomly, I happened to have a photo of me at 20-something in a bar having a pint of a cider that's by somebody else, and wearing a cowboy hat. Anyway, I have been bartending for 25 plus years. That means I'm 42 and started at 17. The math is probably right. My staff called me out on it once because I was like, I've been bartending for 20 years. They're like, you're older than that. Fuck you. 25-year-old. So the first bars I worked at were like little dive bars, very illegally at first, just trying to get a sense for like, what is this space? My mom also worked in a bar for a while. She worked in a cowboy bar called the City Limits. It's a great name. We'll steal that sometime. And then I also worked in a great Irish bar in Boston when I first moved to Boston. I learned a lot about systems, certain things you should do, certain things you shouldn't. I wasn't going to put it in, but I decided to anyway. This bar, this isn't the exact bar, but it was next door. You see the shuttered space next to it. I showed up for work one time, and the FBI was there. And they said, hey, have you ever seen cash be put in boxes? I said, no. Of course not. How could I ever see that? But if our training was at the end of the night, please take the cash, put it in the box. It gets sealed and shipped to Ireland. This was in the early 2000s. I learned a lot about politics, and I learned a lot about how not to run a business. So yeah, there's that. All right. After that, I decided to try to go to school a little bit, always worked in bars. At some point, I ended up working in this bar. At some point, I ended up owning this bar. This bar was called Drink. It was in Boston. It was in a basement. You see that beautiful stonework in the back? I learned a lot about architecture. It turns out if you have stonework like that, you have to reinforce it with waterproofing. Otherwise, the bar floods every single time it rains. And rather than rip the entire bar out and spend $4 million US to replace it, we just redesigned the entire bar to flood. So every day that the high tide came in, there was a trough of water that came from the wall and went into a pipe. It was great for bartending. I learned so much about not designing that shit. Greatest designers in the world can't make things work. But if you can, this was actually also a foundation for a lot of what I learned about how to lead, a lot of what I learned about how to take care of people, and a lot of how to develop systems. And you want to know about awards, you want to know about all those things, it starts fundamentally with taking care of people. The next step is making sure that you have the systems and functionality of the space in order enough for you to consistently deliver a product. The product that we do as bars is taking care of people. It just happens that we do that over a drink. So that's that bar. You'll notice there's no shit on the bag bar. Also there's no like over-under jiggers. I've been kind of yelled at quite a bit because I decided that this is the way that I should design all bars. So anytime there's a back bar, it's probably not because I put it there. Okay, yeah, so Drink was an interesting experience. It's the first bar I ever owned. I did not expect to own bars. I was going to be a doctor for the poor, so I was really looking forward to never making money. I love to travel and be in places that are not necessarily safe. I've grown up a little bit since then. I like the safety. The thing about this bar, it was one of 9 businesses, and I was the only single owner. Everything else in the company was owned by the groups. Large chunks, I owned 15%. Of that 15%, I was the only solo person that owned that much. It's kind of odd. And I decided that this was owning. People were like, oh, yeah, you own this bar. Or many people didn't know I owned the bar because I was working for a very famous chef, which also became a problem. Don't work for chefs. Yes, I used to be a chef. OK. The thing about owning something with a large group is you report to a board, or you report to other people. There were many investors always in charge, essentially. So while I would put input in, while I would think about other things, I was never actually able to fully take my vision and take it as far as I wanted. There was a lot of leeway because the larger company was really bad at what they did, so that gave me opportunity to push as hard as I could. But at the end of the day, I essentially was the face of the bar, managed the program, and had a title. And I had a paycheck. Paychecks are really fun. I haven't had one in a very long time. Nobody tells you that when you own businesses, you don't actually necessarily have a pay. You get paid based on the success. So it's been a long time. So this little bar, we had no menu. We had no back bar. We made like 2,000 drinks a day on average. It was a lot of work. The entire thing was focused on like, hey, there's the spirit. Let's enhance the spirit. Let's make something beautiful. So we had to learn all these classic recipes because that was essentially our menu. Any old cocktail book, I have probably read it. I probably have a digital copy, and I've probably given it to our staff at some point in one way or another. The thing that made this bar so successful was the people, the way that we created the training, the way that we created the interaction, and the gift that we gave the guests when they came in. I loved it. I was there for 11 years. Around 2013, the bar opened in 2008, but around 2013, I started having this idea. I'd like to work with farms. I'd like to work with people. I'd like to change the way this drink is presented and think about the thing in the middle. What about the other ingredients that are in there? So I started hunting for a location for another bar. It took almost 10 years. I hunted for a location. We signed a lease in Paris. Building got condemned. Signed a lease in London. COVID. Then I met my lovely wife. Ended up moving to Hong Kong. And then through a completely different story that's very long and I'm not going to talk about right now, but if you want to hear it at some point, feel free to reach out. Ended up working in this really old building and realizing it was the place the bar should be. So that is this place. I hunted all over the world to find this place. Finally, I was standing in this kitchen covered in tile, and I was like, this is it. I told the guy who was running the building at the time my idea. I had like drawings and sketches. I'd come home to my wife. I'm like, this is what the bar should be, blah, 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 blah. She's like, calm the fuck down. I'm like, yeah. I've got sketches. Look, it's an ice thing.
I never told you to calm down.
No, you didn't. You said that's So during COVID, Hong Kong got kind of shut down. And see the left side there? I decided I should just open it alone. I should do it. Just get it done. Didn't have any money. I think I had 2,000 Hong Kong dollars or something like that. It's total what I ended up spending. Worked every single day that it was open alone for the first about 6 months. Made do with everything that was available. The only things I purchased when I opened was a little like freezer, because I had this idea, oh, we'll make it like sushi. You reach in, instead of rice, it's ice, because ours are annoying. And you use the ice. I make really bad jokes. If you ever see her like shaking her head, it's probably because I said something. Yeah, we can't afford paper, and we don't want to use paper, so so I'll write everything on the wall in a marker. Let's make all this glasses pretty much the same, so it's super consistent. Just make it as efficient as possible, as simple as possible. So after about a year, after 6 months, I was able to hire somebody. After that, I had a little team, and we were running just the first floor of the building. My partners downstairs were not doing well I ended up having to take over the entire building. Even longer story. Won't get into that. So then this January, so we've been open almost 3 years, we took over the entire building. So we have a ground floor now that's really nice, got food, things like that, and then an upstairs, whatever. And for this bar, what I wanted to do is just rip every single thing I could think of apart that made the other bar work and try to get to its core. I went through many revisions. It was a passion project. It was something I thought about for a long time. I have stacks of notebooks with ideas that we're still working on to get through. Nobody would work with me in the farms in Hong Kong. I don't speak Cantonese. I am not part of the culture, but I wanted to participate in the culture. So that itself took a lot of work. I didn't have any investors. I had partners, but it was COVID, everybody was disjointed, et cetera. They weren't there. And it was self-run and no paycheck. So it was entirely dependent on financial success. If this did not work, I would not be able to have a job, I would not have any money, could not pay rent, et cetera. So that's mostly harmless. And I think my wife and I should kind of share the duties of talking about the next two spaces. But what I want you to kind of take away from the last two is that what made them distinctive was that connection to people. It was reducing everything around, every piece of what you think is important to your bar, just get rid of it and look at what is fundamentally there, and that is what is important to making a bar successful. And I'll give you 2 more case examples, which are our bars together, one of which is Call Me Al. And do you mind just giving a little love story about our baby?
Yeah, so absolutely. So Call Me Al is a neighborhood joint. So going back to like the need to nurture, so like the one core fundamental pillar outside of like all of the obvious business aspects is like it's just nurture. It's that like hold your friend for 20 seconds, mama to baby, like that straight up like human bond connection. It's supposed to feel like a global living room. It's just taking, not even like trying to articulate taking pretension out of it, but it just is. It's just like it's just good drinks. Great drinks, great food, great friends. It's a neighborhood spot. It has some pressure because Ezra and I have worked so hard in our careers to be where we are. It's so hard in our careers to be where we are, to be talking to you guys about it. But I mean, like, people just need a place to go, man. So Call Me Al it's quite inspired by a lot of like South African influence. Obviously, it's a reference to the Paul Simon album Graceland. But we just needed something that was really, really accessible, that just felt fucking good, man. We just want people to feel good in their living room. We opened it in a space or like a part of town in Hong Kong. Everybody was like, there's nobody over there. You guys are stupid. And we were like, you're fucking stupid. Like, all it is residents. So, like, we were like the first year, everybody was like, oh my God, I live like 5 minutes away. And we're like, no way.
Yeah, so
welcome home.
When we opened it, nobody wanted it, but also the train station that's about less than a block away opened in 2019, and between 2019 and 2021 when we opened, there had been protests in Hong Kong where the city was completely shut down. There had been there had been COVID where we were limited in our capacity to take care of people. So nobody understood what this neighborhood was. While they were completely blindsided by the idea that we wanted to do it, I think people hadn't really like thought about the concept of it being in the middle of tons and tons and tons of people living there.
Yeah, exactly. So like Call Me Al is our first love child. But yeah, it's our passion project, and it's okay to open bars that we're all super grateful to be in this room and in this space together. But like, we should never be dictated by fucking awards. We're grateful to receive them, grateful to be recognized by our peers and everything like that. But like, Call Me Al is our love child, it's our truth. It's us just wanting to.
It's a bar we want to go to
and love people, and that's all there is to it. And so like, it's a continuation of the DNA. It's an extension of the DNA. So with Mostly Harmless, with the Pontiac, with drink, with whatever, Call Me Al is a continued extension of our DNA that we get to grow and keep the party going.
It's a bar that we also just want to go to. If you don't want to go to your bar, you should really think about it. Like, you should want to go to your bar. Before we do this, there's a drink going around. It's proof that a drink can change your life. It's a drink by my wife.
Oh yeah, so I took the slides out from the hobnail. This drink is 10 years old. I've taught master classes on this cocktail. It's like, never underestimate the fact that a drink can change your life. And I mean, it certainly can. She slipped into my DMs over this drink that you have in your hand right now. She literally was like, what's in a hobnail? And then, so anyways, so this is a beautiful, and I was like, oh no.
Wouldn't you?
So this is a beautiful Jameson Black Barrel, rich bitch ginger. So it's a rich ginger syrup, an Italian digestif, and some other bitters, and lots of love. But I've made this drink for 10 years. People have it tattooed on them. It's just delicious. Sometimes the simple things are the most rock and roll, and whatever brings people together and makes them happy. So, Slante.
So, just because in the slancha,
Yeah.
just in the concept of time, Call Me Al was extremely challenging to open. I opened Mostly Harmless during COVID. Call Me Al, we decided to open during COVID. Artifact, we decided to open during COVID, and a couple others. Call Me Al, nobody would invest. Nobody. They thought it was a horrible idea. Area they didn't care about. It was a hole in a building. It had been previously 2 spaces. They knocked out the middle, and it was like there was no bathrooms. There was no nothing. Oh, there was a bathroom. That's right. In order to solve that problem, we decided rather than trying to fund individual spaces, we would create a larger group. And if we can't get $20, let's ask for $1 million. And it worked, and we got $2 million Hong Kong, so not that much. It was good, perfect. And we also managed to get a couple of really incredible people. I was at Mostly Harmless bartending, and our landlords for what is now Call Me Al were like, hey, if you don't get this money in the next few hours, we're going to actually void out everything, and you're going to have to pay for everything you've done. And I was like, I need to raise $1.5 million in 20 minutes. Fuck.
Owner, buck stops with you.
So I had my regular at the bar, and I was like, so Randy, I understand that you work with money. He's like, yeah, what do you need? I was like, I need to raise $1 million now. And he's like, hold on, let me go see something. I don't think I can help, but let me figure it out. And it took him a little longer, and he came back, and he's like, yeah, I'm investing. I got you $2 million. I was like, oh, who? And he's like, me and Michael. And I was like, oh, yeah, did it. I don't know how I did that. Cool. All right, so next bar, Artifact.
Cool. So, again, we're talking about the extension of the DNA, right? So, obviously, the places that we've talked about, they all look completely different, right? This is obviously a subterranean space odyssey. It's a fucking speakeasy. It's crazy looking. It was designed by an incredibly talented interior architect and designer. His name is Nelson Chow. This was also an opportunity to work with big-time Hong Kong business developers. They're called Hong Kong Land. It's an interesting world to be in. We got asked to pitch to them to pad their deck, right? Because they want accolades. They want to be on these lists and things like that. They're a business development company. They build buildings and they do all these things, and they just want to fucking ribbon in their cap or fucking feather in their hat, whatever. So they asked us to pitch, and fortunately for Ezra and I, we come from we're polar opposites. We come from opposite sides, but we meet in the middle and we have the same destination. So it was quite beautiful that we had the same aligned vision for creating this amazing bar inside the space called Artifact, which is evidence of the journey. We ask people to join the journey because there is no relevance or time and place when you're underground in a bar that looks like it's from the fucking Space Odyssey Stanley Kubrick shit.
One of my favorite things about it is we actually use this. Each one of our businesses is run slightly different. Artifact is entirely done as an incubator space for art and talent. So we have an incredible all under 25 bar team, and we essentially let them
They just happen to be under 25. But when a space is so beautiful and polarizing, oftentimes, especially when things are hard to get to, things that I was having a conversation yesterday. So if it's a speakeasy, you're automatically you kind of feel a little bit, not jaded, but you kind of already feel disconnected by trying to find it. Or if the menu they use words that you don't understand and things like that, you automatically feel like you're painted out of the picture. And just because this space is absolutely stunning and you get to be closer to the art, or what we deem closer to the art, doesn't mean that we want you to feel disenfranchised from the experience. So again, going back to the extension of the DNA, it's still treated like a pub. And it's treated like a pub that has young kids running it, and that is the beauty of it. It's not a business model that they're under 25, they just happen to be. Yeah. And also it's really helpful because it's really dark and they have more stamina in it than a 39-year-old. But with the intention of it is still run like a pub. is still run like taking care of people. We happen to look a certain way, but the way that we take care of you is exactly the same. And we, going back to, Sean's not in here anymore, but like how you can measure things, we measure by how many regulars we have, because that's how many people want to come back and just sit at the bar, regardless of the fact that it looks, you know, obviously super incredible. And the drinks are, like, they're obviously like incredibly innovative. The drinks match the space, but they don't overarch the space, and they don't overarch the experience that you have there. They're not inaccessible. The drinks are accessible, they're intelligent, and they're created by the team just with our guidance. And that helps us grow as well. It helps us grow in our learnings and us as proprietors and like teachers and things like that, is how can you take something that is so completely fucking abstract and make it accessible and relative and bloom in its own right.
And how do you manage that and govern it? And so our way has been, we give our input with the team, they come back to us and they're like, we see this, here's how we feel, and then we kind of guide them.
Which is also like,
very hard for us.
It's very fucking hard because people want us to be the faces of everything that we do, and that's just not sustainable. So it will be a longer process and to gain a little bit more recognition and more attention because the team is young, but that's not sustainable for Ezra and I as proprietors and business owners. Like, you have to, the next generation is there, man, you gotta feed them, otherwise you're just gonna wilt on the vine.
This is blinking at us and has a bunch of redness on it, so I think that means we should probably stop.
Yeah,
right?
Sorry guys.
But basically, we just wanted to share this with you about the key points about how everything, at the end of the day, is about the people. It's about the teams. It's about the way that the through line and everything that you do in the business is actually that connectivity, the way that guests interact, the way the staff interacts with it, and the autonomy that you instill into the space so that the teams have the freedom to give what they can and provide the hospitality that you sketch out for them.
Does anybody have a question? Yes, sir.
G'day.
Hello, Mel from Australia.
Hello,
Mel.
how's it going? That was awesome. Thank you so much. I have two questions. As a queer person myself, I work in a specialty single malt whiskey bar in Australia, and I've always wanted to put a pride flag up. Not many bars do in Australia, and I feel like we cultivate a safe space. And I think people feel that when you walk in, but I would like to know, in your perspective, would you feel if there was no reason not to, would you put a pride flag up?
It's a really fucking good question, and thank you for asking it. And then don't forget your second question. So with the Pontiac, again, like I didn't set out, I did specifically hire primarily women. Never said no to a dude. It just turns out dudes don't really like to work with that many women. When we opened the Pontiac, the week that we opened, before we had like our grand opening, it was the 4th of July weekend, but also that same week, same-sex marriage got legalized in the US. So I'm in Hong Kong. American Independence Day is not a huge deal 10 years ago. And same-sex marriage isn't technically like that big of a deal anyways in Hong Kong at that time. That weekend, I created an event called Red, White, and Rainbow, a celebration of equal rights and independence. And we put up the flag. The second year that we did that, we left the flag up. And also, like, I'm queer, so everybody fucking already gets that shit, right? So, like, and I hope that people understand that when you're stepping into my space, like, I'm gonna take care of you. If it doesn't feel right in your space, then that's understandable. But, so, like, even, like, okay, like, think about Game of Thrones when they light the fucking they light the fire on the top of a different mountain so you can see there's safety. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but the flag is an indicator that there is a safe space. And some people aren't brave enough to go outside of themselves to learn that the space is safe. And sometimes people need an indicator. Sometimes people just need a little flag to show them the way.
That's awesome, thank you. The second question was, so I've been working where I work now for almost 2 years, and how would you go about approaching, a family-run independent business about approaching them to have a small stake of ownership?
Evaluate whether or not owning it is going to be valuable to you.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. There's a difference, as Beckaly said earlier, there's a difference between being an owner and owning it. Owning a stake in it does not necessarily mean it's going to give you anything other than feeling like you can have pride in what you have. If you can already have that and financially have more available to you without having to deal with negative consequences of it, 100%, write it all out, Show them what you want, show them what your value is, and explain it to them and work with them on it. Maybe you can work towards it, maybe not. But ownership is not always the right thing. It's something we actually battle with quite often, whether or not do we provide ownership to certain members of our team who have done a lot, who run our programs, or is it better for them not to? Because do we provide this at a detriment to their ability to grow, at a detriment to their ability to make money? So I think before you even ask the question whether or not to do it, I mean, whether you should do it, I really look at whether it's actually going to help you.
I want to fucking de-glorify sweat equity, personally. Like, again, it's an opportunity, and if the sweat equity actually gives you financial gain, then that's really amazing, but like it needs to be de-glorified because it's clickbait shit. You get baited into giving your entire heart and soul, oftentimes as the talent, to give it everything that you have, but you were a minority shareholder, and also like, you don't know, but you might be like a 5% owner of part of a company that is part of the company that owns the bar. So you know what I'm saying? And they're probably, like, a lot of times people aren't even going to tell you that. So like, use opportunities that come your way, but it's our responsibility, or at least like we're here to try to talk to you guys about like taking off the veil and having greater conversations. And like, you guys you have tons of value, and you need to be represented in your value, and you need to be educated in your value. And like, so like de-glorifying sweat equity, like, but if you do need that to take ownership in what you do, then that's also rock and roll as well. But the monetary return on what you are going to personally invest will most likely not balance out. Doesn't mean don't do it, just means be educated about your decision. Okay, bye.
Two more quick questions. Hey.
Hi. So my question is, what were the main obstacles, and how did you overcome these obstacles, like entrepreneur in a foreign country where you probably didn't know like the main language, and what was like the prejudice that you had like to overcome as well? Because we know like that. You know.
I got you. I'll tell you, when I moved to Hong Kong, I had spent 20 years of my life building a career. I had recognition. I had won world's best bar, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, none of that fucking matters. I went to Hong Kong, nobody cared. They don't. But what does matter is the experience that you got from it. It matters what you took away, what you can apply to the next thing, because it never goes away. If you start at 0, you at least have a ladder that's 45 steps up, so the next time you start at 0, it's already available. That was the hardest part, getting rid of my ego and understanding the difference. My wife put up with a lot of that. It was very, very, very hard. But it was an advantage. And the advantage was, if I had tried to open Mostly Harmless in like Europe or the US, I would have had to live up to something that would have made me compromise what I felt was right. By not having to compromise what was right, I was able to do what worked and what actually provided the space, the ability to grow. Does that answer your question a little bit? The language thing, find people, like one of the first things I did was the first guy I hired spoke Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. So Mostly Harmless population, guest-wise, is 60% local, which is unheard of usually for foreigners who own businesses in Hong Kong. I've changed quite a bit, but at the time it was a little, when I had opened it, it was a little different. So I hired somebody who could be that person, who could be that transition. Anybody you hire behind the bar is who you're going to have in front of the bar. If they speak those languages, you'll have that language on the other side. If they have that connection, you'll have that connection on the other side. So it became extremely important that every single person I hired was a part of that process. We also didn't use any marketing for it. So whatever, it was person to person. So your experience was going to tell somebody else. It's not on the street. It did not have a sign. So literally, it was the first 10 people, day 1, and the 25 people, day 18. I could tell you every single person that talked to every other person to get back to those first 10. And that was the connection, and that was picking people who could be a voice, allowing their voice to be heard, and allowing that space to fill itself in an environment that I was still learning. The other part of that is learning the complexities of the business systems there. Hong Kong is a little complicated. Paris is a little complicated. Boston is very complicated. So learning that and finding mentors who can guide you. You're never too old and never too advanced to have somebody who can tell you how to do things better. And allowing yourself to be humble and take that space and allow them to give you that, or ask the questions when you don't know. I just hired a financial guy for Mostly Harmless, and he taught me more about operating in Hong Kong in 15 minutes than anybody I've ever spoken to, and he part-time is a dishwasher. Like, that's the best conversation I've had with a dishwasher in 8 years.
Hey, I'll hit you with a quick g'day. As far as the multi-site leadership program, that is me.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi. Hi. Oh, you were waiting for this one. As a part of the multi-site leadership program, you mentioned that you use parts of your DNA for each venue. Do you have that duology of finding passion projects to develop new sense of your personal brands and looking for white space in that industry? Which one is more priority? Are you looking to fill something that doesn't exist, or are you looking to express yourself in different ways? And how does that transfer to individual and multi-site beverage programs?
So you're asking the right question. That's the extension of the DNA, and not trying to put in different parts of the DNA, is like the core pillars of our togethered DNA, which is our together DNA right now, right? And actually, I'm taking that, the extension of the DNA, I'm taking that phrase from Meenakshi Kishion's sidecar in India. It was just in India, and like when we were chatting, we were talking about the ethos and like how we actually like truly align. She's like, it's just all an extension of the DNA, and I was like, whoa, love you. Obviously, Ezra and I are very, very different, so like Mostly Harmless is, sure, that's like her passion project. If you could break it down, it doesn't necessarily matter what the jacket looks like, right? So like we'll take, for Hungry Ghost, like we have Call Me Al and Artifact, right? The jackets are completely different. One is like, you know, spacesuit. The other one is like, maybe it's like hippie. But the DNA is the same. So your core pillars, your core ethos, and the way that you go about it and the way that you treat people is the same, but maybe you are painting with different colors.
That's the one.
So yeah, so it's at its fundamental core, it's still the same, but you're just different canvas, different colors, and different opportunity to explore different facets of your imagination, but the DNA is still the same.
Also, for us currently, we're focusing very much on stability. So we actually had a few other projects that we opened, a couple of which just did not work at the time for what they were or for some other reason. And as we look at what we might do in the future or ideas of expansion, how do we take what we've done and take that somewhere else? All of the projects are basically the same at heart. They have different people and they have different jackets, as Beckaly is saying. But if you don't have a stable source at the beginning and with what you're working in, it doesn't make any sense to go beyond that.
Okay, so anyways, you guys are super awesome. We love you. Thank you
very
so much for your time. Cheers.